Hi, I've made this video to show you what Jujitsu is and what taking a Jujitsu class is like for a beginner. This video is made for adults who know nothing about Jujitsu. There are lots of videos out there showing Jujitsu experts demonstrating impressive moves and even some simple how-to videos. I haven't seen any that take a step back to answer the most important question: what is Jujitsu anyway? In case you're wondering who I am, this is me doing a few moves at a Jujitsu demonstration. I'm the one who's going to get thrown to the ground here. My name is Fred Patterson, and I'm no Jiu-Jitsu expert. I still think of myself as a beginner, and I think I know how to talk to other beginners. A little background about me. When I was a teenager, I did a variety of different martial arts, none for very long. Then I took about 20 years off until I started getting fat and decided to get back into shape. I didn't know anything about Jiu-Jitsu classes because nobody made a video for me to watch. The Jiu-Jitsu class just happened to be the closest school to my house, so I gave it a try and really liked it. Since then, I've competed in several light contact sport jiu-jitsu tournaments and earned a brown belt. The guy in the blue-colored uniform is my instructor. His name is Chris Peterson, and you'll see a lot of him in this video because he let me film the class and gave me some of his old tapes to work with. He has black belts in jiu-jitsu and some other styles, and mostly uses the principles of small circle jiu-jitsu.
Hands on his chest, keep your legs together, and then lean back with the thumb up.
In this training video, he's explaining a series of fairly basic techniques, and then moves on to a more advanced series. Notice how he quickly moves towards his opponent, controls his opponent's body by controlling his arm, and puts him in various positions that either cause pain or would actually disable him. I'm now showing you some scenes from an advanced small circle jiu-jitsu test Chris was taking. Sorry about the low quality video. I'm just going to let the video play while I talk a little about what Jiu-Jitsu is. Be aware that I'm not a spokesman for any school or style. I don't even speak for Chris Peterson. I'm telling you my personal opinion and nothing more. To my mind, Jiu-Jitsu is the single best traditional style, if you're interested in self-defense or competing in the combat sports. Now I said traditional style. I mean the styles that come here from Asia with foreign-sounding names where the participants wear special uniforms. Jiu-Jitsu is the best of those, if you really want to be able to protect yourself or mix it up in the ring. Jiu-Jitsu alone is probably not the best thing to study if all you want to do is compete in the UFC or one of the other fighting leagues. Self-defense is different from competition in the ring, and pure Jiu-Jitsu is designed for self-defense. The best fighters in the ring use Jiu-Jitsu blended with other martial arts, especially striking arts like boxing, kickboxing, or karate. These modern hybrid styles seem to be dominating competitions at the moment, and the best Jiu-Jitsu instructors will include some lessons learned from open competition in their interpretation of Jiu-Jitsu. So to sum up, if you have to study only one of the traditional arts, choose Jiu-Jitsu and cross-train in a striking style if you want to compete in the ring. Jiu-Jitsu emphasizes getting close to your opponent and controlling their body with carefully applied force. So it's similar to wrestling and it's related to Judo. It's different from virtually all the striking styles, which emphasize standing a short distance away from your opponent and hitting them with fast, powerful punches and kicks. The striking styles are great, but they're not for everyone. They rely on a speed and precision that some people, like me, don't have. You can use Jiu-Jitsu even when you're small, weak, or old, because it relies more on leverage and skill than on speed and strength. Many Jiu-Jitsu students, including me, are middle-aged. A lot of women take Jiu-Jitsu, and many instructors pair up women together for training. I'd guess most schools are 10 to 20% women. If you've been watching the images, you'll have noticed that when an opponent tries to grab or strike Chris, he usually moves towards them and applies some sort of finger or arm hold to cause them pain and take away their balance. He then tries to put himself in a dominant position so he can hurt them, and they can't hurt him or even reach him. When they move their bodies, it's because Chris is making them hurt, and when they tap themselves with their hands, they're telling him they're in so much pain that they're giving up. In a competition, the match would be over. In a real fight, Chris would simply keep twisting the hand or arm until it was dislocated, and his opponent could no longer fight. Chris is demonstrating a variety of different Jiu-Jitsu moves in this test. He started by doing finger locks and moved on to arm locks and then throws and chokes. A finger or arm lock means that he's grabbed their finger or arm and is bending it until it hurts. Chris's test is not as realistic as sparring, where the opponent can do whatever he wants to. The opponents here were told to simply grab him, and Chris reacted by doing whatever technique was appropriate for the situation. However, the test is more realistic than some styles in which everything is scripted in advance. Obviously, scripted training isn't worth much if a real enemy doesn't follow the script. Chris's test shows the kind of moves that small circle jiu-jitsu emphasizes, moving close to an opponent and making small movements that inflict pain and control the opponent's hands and arms. Most techniques are done in reaction to an opponent attacking, often by surprise while you're standing. In other words, it's oriented towards self-defense. This is in contrast to some other styles of jiu-jitsu, such as some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which often emphasizes fighting a skilled opponent who you are already aware of, and usually ending up on the ground with them. That approach is good for competition in the ring, but less than ideal on the street, where you want your opponent to go down while you stay up. Then you can stay and finish him off, or run away, or fight his buddies as needed. The second reason I used Chris's test was to show how training is done in jiu-jitsu. Techniques are always practiced and demonstrated on a live opponent. It's astonishing to me that some other styles spend such a small amount of time actually working with an opponent. To my mind, there's no substitute for actually trying out moves on someone who's actively resisting you. That's how you learn what works and what doesn't. Most of the rest of the footage I have is from our class. I've included it to show how we train. Typically, after warm-up, Sensei Chris will demonstrate a technique on someone, then we'll split into pairs and practice it on each other for maybe 10 minutes per technique. At the end of the class, we'll often have sparring or some sort of unscripted competition, where students can try any move they like. Some people are kind of weirded out by the close physical contact it takes to learn jiu-jitsu. All I can say is that you get used to it pretty quickly. When you're wrestling, you're not really thinking about anything at all. You're just moving and reacting to your opponent's moves. If you're serious about fighting, you have to train realistically. In a real fight, you're going to have to get very close to your opponent. You might as well get used to it in training. Jiu-jitsu is great exercise, but can be a bit rough. Most people can do it with no problem, simply by taking it easy until they're trained and their bodies are ready. Some people with back problems, or anything else that could be worsened by heavy physical contact, should check out a different art. The next clip is Sensei Chris demonstrating a series of techniques on one of his students. They were just goofing around, but it's still a good clip because it's a nice series of simple, basic jiu-jitsu techniques done one at a time. Whenever the student moves or taps his hand, it's because Chris is doing something that makes it hurt not to move. The purpose of this drill is to get a feel of how to maintain control of the opponent no matter what they try to do, or how they shift position or try to escape. It's worth noticing that almost all the techniques are small moves, which control the opponent's body by controlling their hands or arms. When I first saw jiu-jitsu being used, it didn't look like much to me. There were no dramatic, jumping, spinning kicks like you see in the movies. The thing is, real fighting isn't like the movies. If you want to know what works, watch people who fight for a living, like on Ultimate Fighting or in the IFL. All those guys use at least some jiu-jitsu, and they know how to defend against it. If you still don't believe that jiu-jitsu techniques work, I'll prove it. Jiu-jitsu moves generally force one of your opponent's joints to move in a direction that it won't naturally go. While you watch this, just stick out your hand like you're going to shake hands. Now turn your hand so the palm is up. Now with your other hand, grab that first hand and twist it even further in the same direction until it really hurts. This is called a wrist twist, and you can imagine what would happen if somebody else kept doing it to you until something broke. It doesn't look dramatic to anyone else, but you'd be out of the fight. This last clip is Chris and another instructor competing using Judo rules. We sometimes do this in class because it lets you practice throwing the opponent to the ground and wrestling them there without worrying about strikes. In this video, I've tried to briefly introduce Jiu-Jitsu to someone who knows nothing about it. I'm putting Chris Peterson's contact information up on the screen in case anyone local wants to check out the school. If you have kids, check out my video about the kids class. If anyone feels they can do a better job explaining Jiu-Jitsu to a layperson, give it a try and make your own video. I'd enjoy watching it. Have fun with whatever art you choose.